Welcome back. Daily Graphic is starting this morning. Bank of Ghana gets tough with forex sales, and Lavender Hill plans to generate power and compost. I'm sure we'll talk about that. And one key thing here: confusion rocks APC over endorsement. President Mahama is seated in one of the trains after the inauguration at Sekondi Kujokrum. Real pleasure returns to Sekondi Kujokrum. That's the Daily Graphic. Daily Guide says 6 ballot boxes missing. I'm sure the EC has reacted to that story, but we'll take a look at that. 35 million CDs scandal. They are jealous of me. Woyome is said to have said that the Lavender Hill story is also captured by the Daily Guide. And Ayarige's story, his boys rooting for Nanado, is also captured. The Ghanaian Observer says, I will investigate and retrieve DKM monies. Akufo-Addo assures Bono Ahafo residents. And also here, NPP angry over 6 missing ballot boxes. That story is also captured by the Daily Guide. Let's jump to the Telegraph. Mahama storms Central Region, commissions key projects, and NHIS rolls out new packages, says the authority is challenged but not collapsing. The finder says Bank of Ghana to vomit $223 million as PIAC demands refund of misapplied oil revenue. Ghanaian Times says 127,394 for special voting on December 1. And the Punch says NPP will reject poll result if. That's the story on the front page of the Punch. For us, let's start with the Daily Graphic. A quick look at this one. 127,394 for special voting. December 1 is the day. And Mr. Amadou told a Ghanaian Times after the IPAC meeting, and he explained that the number of people on the special voters list had increased from 114,813 to the current 127,394. And he explained that it is as a result of police recruits and temporary staff of the Electoral Commission. He said the EC required more staff to work at polling stations as a result of the creation of more polling stations from 27,000 to 29,000 stations. So that's the figure, official figure now, 127,394,000. Mr. Alex Afenyomaki, let me start with you. Now, the EC has explained that the initial figure it came out was because it didn't have the full complement of staff. This is the final figure, and already some have raised concerns that you're unsure of where the additional names are coming from. Is that your worry too?
First of all, let's put it in a proper context. One, a special voting regulated by any law? I guess it is. Or I'm sure we all are aware that special voting is regulated by law. At what time are we supposed to have the special voting list? When is EC supposed to come out with those lists? And then also the temporary staff of the EC. Are we supposed to have them as political parties, contestants, and when are they supposed to finish all that process? In one breath, EC will say that it's going by the regulation. Why did they come to Parliament with CI 94? In another breath, they put away or they set aside their own law and they do as they please. So these are the concerns I have. Now come think of it. If EC will not be transparent with the number of special voters list, the proxy, I'm going to have a press conference on something that the EC has done on the proxy exercise later this afternoon. And I would expose EC on its own inconsistencies and EC's conduct of routing its own laws, which in itself give room for sufficient suspicion as to whether EC is committed to free, fair, and transparent elections. Later this afternoon, I'll let the whole country know what EC has been doing. That when you criticize them, some people would think that, oh, perhaps you have a personal agenda. But in effect, if we don't talk about these things, they go a long way. They go a long way to affect the outcome of the elections.
You don't want to go to them first, or you think the...
Oh, I've written to them. Okay. In fact, they were running away from me.
Okay.
The concerns I have, I raised it with the district office. Oh, Honorable, me, I don't know anything about it. Head office. Head office, you call somebody, he will pick it. When you try to confront the person with the facts, oh, then I'll get to my superior and get back to you, and to date. So it is just obvious that Electoral Commission is not really, it's so obvious that the Electoral Commission is not really committed to free, fair elections in this country. That is what it appears to me, and perhaps many other Ghanaians, to be the case. Ordinarily, special voting, the list, it shouldn't be of any worry. But 2 police officers have at least in a conversation told me that their names were not part of the special voters list. Even though they are working on election day? Yes, but all police officers are supposed to have their names, or some police officers are not supposed to have their names there. I don't think, is it every police officer? I think those who will be working on election day. Oh. Every police officer? Oh. Okay. Security services. I know some EC permanent staff. Because for us journalists, those who will be needed on voting day are those who are voting. Perhaps that's where I'm picking my signals. Are we not supposed to have security services? Are we not supposed to have their names on the list? I am telling you that some police officers, because I heard from the IGP, when he said, oh, they have recruits. Are recruits supposed to perform security duty on that day? They are recruits. Those who are the training school, are they qualified to be police officers? But they claim that they need to have their names there. And I'm telling you on good authority that I know some police officers who don't have their names on the special voters list. I am telling you on good authority that I know some permanent staff of the EC whose names are not on the special voters list. I am telling you again on good authority that I know some people who have been invited for training or who have been recruited for the temporary work on the D-Day who do not have their names on the special voters list. So the Electoral Commission must be consistent, must tell us truthfully how the situation is. They must lay bare the facts so that they don't give room for unnecessary suspicion. But it's always, it appears that EC seem to have things under their sleeves. It appears. So with these things, we are not even too sure. Can they publish the names? Can they publish? Well, is the list not out? No. We don't have it at the constituency level. Look, the Electoral Commission must be careful. But your party should have it, I guess. Look, we don't have it. At the IPAC meeting, we don't have it. As we don't have it. As we speak, we don't have the transfer list. I asked the district office. I asked the district office on Friday. What the district office told me was that, head office will make it available. Today is Monday. What date is today? It's 28, right? Special voting is taking place on Thursday, 1st of December. We still don't have the transfer list. Meanwhile, I have seen a bloated proxy list in my constituency. I have seen a bloated proxy list. What is the Electoral Commission up to? So that they do things last minute. You won't have the space and they say, oh, forget about it. Why? Does Madam Charlotte Osei want a peaceful Ghana? What's this not discussed? But has your party told you about some of these issues you're raising and perhaps the IPAC meeting last week? Nothing of that sort? No, what I don't understand your question. What do you want to say? The concerns you're raising, I'm asking. Which concerns? Which of them? I've said several things. For instance, this issue of proxy list that you're saying you've seen a bloated one in your constituency. The story I'm reading from Ghanaian Times is suggesting that Mr. McMahon was there at the IPAC meeting. Mr. Potofi was there. The PPP's Kofi Asama was there. So I'm asking if perhaps these concerns were not addressed at IPAC meeting. Which concerns? The concerns from me to the party? Exactly. But what does the report say? What does the report say? The Ghanaian Times report? Yes. What does it say? The 127,000 people plus are for special votes. Yes, and I'm saying that for the 127,000, the concerns of the MPP are well known in the public domain. And these are the concerns. I'm repeating them this morning. But I've given you an additional information that the dates when to do special voting is in the CI 94, isn't it?
Okay. Now,
yes. And I'm also telling
Mr.
you...
Mr. Give me a minute. I'm asking you this because Mr. Amadou Sule is said to have told the meeting that the number of people on the voters list, the special voters list, had increased from 114,000 plus to the current 127,000 plus as a result of the involvement of police recruits of police and temporary staff of EC. That is Mr. Amadou telling the IPAC meeting. Now, Mr. Peter McMahon, who is the campaign coordinator, was there at the meeting, and the story says he expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the meeting. That's what I'm asking, that these concerns that were raised, has it not come to the party that at least they've been addressed since there was an IPAC meeting last week?
Listen.
Briefly, because your other guests are yet to speak.
It's one thing briefing somebody on a matter.
Okay.
And another thing raising a constituency-specific issue or giving a general comment on specific matters that perhaps did not come to bear. I am telling you this morning that if EC claims all temporary staff who will assist on election day have been added on to the special voters list, if that is what the EC is saying, I say that it's an outright lie.
Okay. I'll come back
if
to Mr.
EC tells you, let me conclude on that. If EC tells you that all security personnel have their names on the special voter list, it is not true.
Okay.
All permanent staff
will come back.
Do not have.
Will come back.
And as we speak, we don't have them. The transfer list is not even out. And I'm telling you that at least I am aware that the proxy list in Efutu has been bloated.
Mr. Afinyama,
the transfer
I come back
list
to you.
is not. So
let me go to
how would we know? What
Mr. Atiku of the PNC, the General Secretary of the PNC. Welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
So this voter, special voter list, concerns are being raised about perhaps EC's openness. Let's put it that way. Is the PNC also in the same dilemma?
Let me say good morning to you and to your viewers. The truth is that when this issue first broke out, I had cause to express concerns about the latest additions. And indeed, we had made the point very clearly that if there were any such additions, they were in violation of the very law that we are conducting this year's elections with. And so indeed, when we appeared at the IPAC meeting, one of the major items on the agenda was to discuss supplementary voter lists. And one of such lists was the special voting list. And so I raised the concern that, in fact, we had been briefed that there had been an increase in the number. So I raised my hand and then I sought to know how that increase had happened, what occasioned it, and in clearer terms, when that happened. The answer wasn't very clear, but I insisted to know the period within which these additions were made. And so the understanding I got was that it was done at a time that would have amounted to contravention of the very regulations we are running this year's elections with. And so it goes without saying that there had been a breach of regulation 23 of the CI and 24, which would require that before anybody is added onto the special voters list, it ought to have been not less than 42 days to the elections. But clearly, this thing happened lesser than the days before, the days required by law before the elections. So there was a clear breach. But the electoral commission, they admitted to this very clearly. It was beyond debate. But what they did say was that on the balance of the threats that are likely to be met on the day of election and the head of the law, they felt that it was better to favor the latter, which was to head the law in favor of, according to them, things that would ensure that our elections were smooth on the day. And to the extent that it did not generate further discussion and disagreement, I'm sure that is where the reporter is suggesting that
all parties agreed.
Somewhat would say, we had agreed that it was okay. But this is the problem. The Electoral Commission felt a step shy of telling us that what we had done was to include recruits. All they said was policemen whose names were missing on the list were those they had added. They did not make it clear to us whether they were recruits or not. And if this information as reported in the Ghanaian Times, and which is purported to have been made by the deputy chairman of the Electoral Commission, then I think there is a cause to be worried. And this stems from the fact that recruits are, technically speaking, not policemen. So how are you going to deploy them on the day of elections? Are you going to deploy them as civilians or semi-civilians? Or are you going to deploy them as policemen because they technically don't qualify to be deployed as such? And so if they are not qualified to be deployed as policemen on the day of election, on what basis did the IGP or the police service write to them? Because the CI, the regulations are very clear that you can either write to the returning officer or your employer can cause that to be done. Now, who are the employers? And my understanding of all that is happening is that the recruits are supposed to be the employees of the police service, when indeed they are not. So IGP wrote to the Electoral Commission acting in a manner that seems to be consistent with the content of CI 94 that suggests that if you are an employer, you can write to the Electoral Commission, granted the services of your employee will be needed or will be very important on the day of election. But here we are, the recruits are not policemen. So on what basis was that letter even written? But for me, let's move beyond this discussion. I am only hopeful.
Was this issue raised at IPAC?
Which one?
Last week? The one you just about
the recruits.
Yes.
No.
It was not raised.
Yes, because the Electoral Commission wasn't explicit in mentioning which. They only said some policemen were missing on the list, and given the importance of their role on the day, they had to be included. And on that understanding, there was no need to drag the issue further because it is in our mutual interest to have adequate numbers of policemen deployed on the day. But you see, beyond these things, I think that the Electoral Commission is inviting needless controversies upon its head. And the reason I say this is simply that when it suits the Electoral Commission, they are so loyal and religious in the application of the law. But in some circumstances also, they are inviting us to appreciate some reason and to appreciate the effects of their non-observance of the law, which will serve the greater good and so on and so forth. That is where I have a problem. That you cannot choose and pick which provisions of the law to apply and which ones not to. If you are strictly applying the law, let's strictly apply the law. And in any case, what prevented this CI was crafted and accepted not today. We've been working with this CI for a period now. What stopped the Electoral Commission and the police service from doing that which is required by law? And it is very clear when you go to CI, Regulation 23, it is very clear what period within which you are allowed to prepare the voters list, the special voters list, and to add names and so on. So what made them wait until such a time that it became apparent that any addition would amount to a contravention of the law? But having said so, the Avenger was raising concerns about a possible bloated proxy list. I think the number of people on the proxy list is very clear. They are 534. And they've been broken down into regions and possibly constituencies and so. I'm sure this information is available. If there is contrary information or there is contrary experience in his constituency, I think it is only legitimate that he raises those concerns, because we can't afford any constituency having problems with a list that is well known to everybody. But the other issue is, we are supposed to be served with these details. As we speak,
you don't have it.
We don't have it. The only list we were served with, and in fact, they were not mandatorily served on us. What happened was you could go and have it on request, was the earlier 114,000. Now, the 127,000 they have mentioned, the information we are having is that can be ready or should be ready by the end of today. Now, if you have this information today, how well are you able to analyze the content before the election? Because the election starts on Thursday.
Right.
So if you are able to procure this information early enough, it disables you from being able to do any thorough analysis of the content. And for me, that is the problem. The Electoral Commission appears to be doing some ambush management of this year's election. And that raises a great deal of worry, that you only get to be told when an action has been taken and the repercussions are not very favorable. That is when you are told, oh, this is what we did. And you see, this issue about the additions, if alarms were not raised, I doubt if this explanation would have been given to us. So for how long are we going to be reacting for the Electoral Commission to give us accurate and adequate data? I think that is a problem. But beyond all that, I am hopeful that all shareholders will play their part. I am convinced beyond any doubt that political parties are ready to play their part. At least what I saw at the IPAC meeting gave me the indication that every political shareholder is interested in the transparency and openness of this year's process. But the Electoral Commission must give us a greater reason to be relaxed and to have faith in the fact that they'll be impartial, they'll be neutral, and that at the end of it all, we can all sit back and see the Electoral Commission was very impartial, did a professional job. But some of these things create the feeling, and rightly so, that the Electoral Commission is up to something. Because, and these perceptions are what over time graduate to become facts. The sequence of events, you know, lends credence to the fact that the Electoral Commission has not been, if you wish, extremely cautious in the way it relates to political shareholders. Because if it appears that you are assuming a position that suggests that you are doing everything by yourself, and you only explain and share information with political parties when there is an apparent failure in the way you go about your things and so on and so forth, we could have been better. But like I keep saying, this political or democratic journey is something we learn a lot from us at every turn. I am only hopeful that these will constitute lessons for us to make better our process in the coming years.
Grateful for your time, the Mohammed Atik of the PNC. But Felix, let me come to you now. So these concerns that are raised, the key word they seem to be using is that it appears, and I'm glad that it appears and it is not a fact that the EC is engaged in this. Perhaps, should we say that the EC should be more open so that these perception can be taken care of?
Well, transparency is extremely important in order to engender public confidence in the work of any state institution, let alone a body that plays a role of a referee or an arbiter in an election. So there's no gainsaying that the EC has to be transparent, at least to the extent that it will be necessary to garner public support and sustain confidence in their operations. Again, any breach of the electoral law is most regrettable and totally undesirable. Nonetheless, it is important that political parties and other stakeholders do not create problems where none exists. In this index case, it is clear to me that the EC has provided sufficient explanation on a platform that is created for such issues to be discussed, that is IPAC. And as Atik is saying, and he was present at the meeting, so there's no basis upon which you can dispute what he's saying. But the summary of what he has said is that when the anomaly was detected and they raised questions, the EC explained. On the face of it, it would appear to me like a reasonable explanation. You see, the EC has given the register, the National Voters Register, to the political parties. So any political party that is serious and is determined to make an impact in this election would have analyzed and broken down that register, such that if they obtained subsequent information, they will be able to cross-reference that against the register that they have. Also, it is not the case that the EC has given this new list to any political party at the expense of others.
The party doesn't.
No political party, as I speak, has that register, and I think has indicated that they intend to do that sometime today. So all the political parties are on the same playing field. The playing field is quite level. Nobody has an advantage over the other. Whilst it is regrettable, and we could do with an earlier submission of that register, no party has been disadvantaged because of that particular delay. And given that there's been some time between the provision of the substantive national register and this one, I believe there's adequate time. Within 72 hours, any serious party should be able to do the analytics and determine whether there are any discrepancies between those lists. Because ultimately, everybody going to participate in the special voting has to meet a basic criteria. And that is, you must qualify to vote. And if you are qualified to vote, your name would be on the voters register. So it is not as though people have been brought from elsewhere who do not meet the basic criteria to vote in Ghana and are being foisted on political parties as special votees.
They raise concerns about the police recruits.
Again, you see, that is when I have the difficulty with the analysis that is being done. The police service, together with other security agencies, will be in charge of security on the day. If in their operational procedures, they believe that recruits could be of help to them, and so they are going to deploy them on election day, and they submit their list to be included on the special voting register, I do not see how a problem arises out of that, simply because the recruits are not full-time policemen.
Does it go against the law?
No. We have all considered to the fact that there's some breach because of the number of days that the EC should have taken into account before giving the register to the political party. So that breach is there, and we have all accepted that despite that, there is some compelling need for this to be done. But the question I'm raising is that how does somebody being a recruit create a disadvantage for one party or the other, or how does it undermine or stall the process in any way? I don't think that it does. The police reserve the right to deploy men in a manner that they deem fit so that they can discharge their responsibility of offering security. If they believe that recruits will be of help, at the very least, recruits could direct traffic on election day, at the very least, even if they are not fully prepared to engage in armed combat or non combat. At the very least, they can direct, and we've seen national service persons assist the police to direct traffic before. So it is not entirely accurate that you need to have gone through the full meal of training before you can play some role to assist the police to maintain security. And I'm certain, I am not aware of the exact operational procedure that the police has adopted, but I am certain that the police would have considered that these recruits could be of some assistance to them. And mind you, our security agencies, in spite of their professionalism and the hard work they've put in over the years, are seriously constrained by numbers. Even if you were to deploy all the policemen we have in Ghana today on election day, it would be inadequate without additional support from elsewhere to maintain the kind of security that we want in this country. It is a fact that we have to contend with as a country. So if they are making efforts to get help from people who they are training to become policemen eventually, I don't think that there's any difficulty with it. That certainly
Felix,
cannot undermine the electoral process.
Sorry for cutting, but some have said that, you see, these recruits have just started their training. Now, if they have been, for instance, trained in some kind of weapon handling and they have not completed, and you let them out to some of these polling stations, they could be...
Well, I would be surprised. I'm a layman. I don't have any expertise at all in security. But I would be very surprised if the police would allow the recruits to even carry weapons on that day, or lethal weapons. I would be very, very surprised if that happened. I don't think or believe that that is what will happen.
That's what you're thinking.
The point I'm making is that there is some role that you could play in terms of maintaining law and order, or assisting the police to maintain law and order on that day. A role that will not go beyond their current training and expertise. That is what I would like to believe. And I think that we ought to allow the police the space to strategize in a manner that ensures security for all of us on election day. I don't see how that particular arrangement can undermine the electoral register, even though I am of the view that the EC must conduct itself in ways that are consistent with the very laws and regulations that govern this particular election. That's the point that I'm making. Again, you see, Alexis' submission raises serious concern. And you see, and it highlights a certain attitude that I have constantly criticized, that the NPP seems to have a difficulty with every single stage of this process. Mind you, the NPP is not the only stakeholder in this election. There are many stakeholders. How is it that it is only the NPP that constantly makes an issue out of everything? Atik has been
PNC
there.
has also
but
concerns.
Atik has raised similar concerns. But you saw the way he went about it. He did not seek to use the concerns he has as a means to undermine the credibility of the Electoral Commission and suggest that the Electoral Commission is up to some mischief in favor of another party.
I think one key thing is that the two of them use the word appears. And
No,
that's what
I also have concerns about any breach of the electoral law.
Right.
But I think that the default position of citizens of Ghana should be to support state institutions to succeed in what you are. If you have concerns, point them out by all means, with a view to constructively engaging. But the NPP's approach has constantly been to bastardize the EC, where even genuine slips and errors are interpreted to mean an attempt to gerrymander the elections in favor of one political party. That is the difficulty I have. And why? We in the NDC have a long record of taking on the EC for things that we suspect do not meet the basic criteria of free and fair election. But at no point has any party so bastardized the EC in the manner that the MPP is doing? Right from
that's from your own judgment.
That's from my own view.
Your own judgment.
That is my own view. And
you
see, look at what they did to Dr. Afarijan after he had rendered decades of service of this country. The man went into retirement, a heavily bastardized individual. The moment Madame Charlotte Ese was appointed, they didn't even allow her to have a feel of the place. Then they started constantly attacking her. Every single thing that the EC does, they subject to severe attacks. And I'm saying that is not the way to go. Look at the posture of Mr. McMahon. At least, if the report is anything to go by. It is completely inconsistent with Alexis' poster this morning. Again, he makes an allegation that he is aware that there are 2 policemen whose names are not on a register. Why? Right. Have there not been instances where ordinary Ghanaians have gone to polling stations only to find that their names are not on a register? Would it be the very first time that somebody would not have found his name on the register? It is a regrettable situation, but it is a very regular occurrence. It is nothing out of the ordinary. Perhaps steps can be taken if it is not too late to get those people on the register, even though law will be violated. But to interpret that to mean that there is something fundamentally wrong with the process is, for me, disagreeable. I don't think that it is a way to go. In any event, there's even no way of verifying the claim that he's making. And what benefits accrues to the EC if they leave out the names of 2 policemen? So honestly, it is okay. It is possible to discuss concerns that we have or flaws in the process without seeking to undermine the agency that is to stage elections. Often when we in the NDC have spoken like this, we are accused of speaking for the EC. But I believe that it is the responsibility of every citizen of Ghana to uphold the work of state institutions. By all means, point out difficulties with their work. But please, let us not consistently bastardize the EC. You see, when you do that, the impression you leave is that you are simply preparing the grounds to reject the results of the elections, given your recent history, where there's absolutely no truth. Look, only this weekend, I don't know whether Alex is aware, but one of the senior members of his party, Gabriel Chedako, took to Facebook and Twitter to make wild allegations against the EC that there had been some thumb-printed ballot papers in K2 South, only for him to come out 24 hours later to render an apology to the EC after the EC had explained. Imagine that this was election day, and he made this allegation, and some MPP supporters were enraged and took the laws into their hands. Would that apology undo the damage that would have been inflicted on this country by that, what do you call it? He did not verify the allegations. I'm sure he has contacts in the EC, or he could even make a formal inquiry at the EC to find out whether there's any truth. Apparently, he sat in his room, somebody fed him with false reportage, then he took to Facebook to put it out. And this is no mean person. This is a leading figure within the New Patriotic Party who has considerable influence on the followers of that party. I'm asking a question again. If any mayhem had broken out, assuming that it was election day, would this apology undo the damage that would have been done? So all of us must behave responsibly. Everybody has a stake in the election, right from the president to the very last man on the street. But let us express our concerns in a very responsible manner so that we don't cause more damage and rather help the process to grow. We are a nascent democracy. As we go along, we will meet rough patches. But by and large, who can say that we have not made incremental progress since 1992 when we began this process? The elections we held in 2012, by every account, were the most credible we've held in this country's history. By every account. And despite the so-called election petition that they mounted, it was clear that they had absolutely nothing against that process. It was only intended to pave way, perhaps, for the flag bearer to run for a third term or assuage the hurt feelings of their supporters. But let us be truthful and candid.
But Phyllis, you know the court also brought out some things we need
in
to
1992 or 96, when the MPP proposed the use of transparent ballot boxes, they didn't have to go to court to make that proposition. And over the years, we started with opaque ballot boxes. Indeed, we started with ballot papers being counted at collation centers. It was later that ballot papers were counted and the results declared at the polling station right after voting. So we've made progress. So those reforms that the Supreme Court spoke about, first of all, they are not even binding because the Constitution says that you cannot direct the EC in certain ways. But everybody agrees that every institution needs to grow, so every process must be refined as we go along. A difference, therefore, must be established between making proposals for improvement on the process and leveling allegations intended to undermine the credibility of the agency that is supposed to conduct elections, so that when you lose elections, you reject it. That, for me, is a greater work.
Okay, all right. Oh, Alex, I thought we were going. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Right. You see, I'm happy with the submissions by Felix. At least he appears an evangelist. And it's good. It's good. To the extent that conveniently it helps his party, because a party in government, it's in its interest to ensure that, in an attempt to have a third term, anything that would affect possible ways and means, they should calm nerves. But that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. Let me tell Felix the facts on this proxy issue I raised. EC closed proxy on the 27th of September. On the 4th of October, when we're doing transfers, a gentleman walks to the EC office and attempts to do proxy, and he is told that the proxy list has closed. We can't do proxy again. Then he calls somebody on phone. Unfortunately for him, the phone was on speaker. The one who sent him, a leading member of the NDC. And the person tells him, in our presence, that, I will do it in Accra. They bring the proxy list. Then the person's name is in it. All right? I will do it in Accra. They bring the proxy list. The person's name is in it. All right? You walk to the district office. Madam EC, how come we have more than what we had done as at 27th of September? Hey, as for me, it's not me. I don't know anything about it. Go to head office. I didn't do this. I closed it. You remember I was here when I told the person that the proxy is closed. Bright, are you appreciating this point? You go to the EC. You call the bosses there. Somebody attempt an explanation. It emanated from the district. We don't do proxy here. Then you try to explain, no, we closed it on the 27th. As at 27th September, we had only 5. The person walked to the EC office on the 4th of October, and he was told that they've closed proxy applications. Then they say, we'll get back to you. End of story. I am telling you that Felix cannot tell me that these are mere slips and mistakes. Okay? This is a serious matter which must be taken on board. After all, don't we know that every case that had gone to court, those applicants have won and the EC had lost? So isn't it insufficient reason for anybody to believe that the EC is always doing the wrong thing, or at least whenever we come out publicly to criticize them, we do so on grounded facts? So
for you, it is deliberate, not slips.
This cannot be slips. Look, transfer list, as we speak, you EC, you have regulations. How many days have we to an election? 9 days to general elections, some 3 days to special voting. We don't have the transfer list.
But it is not the MPP.
No. Listen, I am telling you that we don't have it. We don't have it.
I see the credit. I think to some extent,
we don't have
Alex has a valid point.
You see,
the credit it is available. And in fact, that let me.
I think if I land,
okay, Alex, you land.
You see, we don't have it. Then you come and tell me that it will come. In one breath, you have a law. You have a law. EC, you have a law. You want us to set aside the law. But isn't it the same EC that tried or attempted to disqualify some people because they did not go by the regulations? Is that not the same EC? And Felix wants to tell me that I shouldn't complain. I know. I am saying that Felix has not stood for public elections. Atik here has not stood for public elections. I have. So at least for those of us here, together with you as our host, I have the experience of practical field elections, and I know what happens. That you can win and you will not be declared a winner. Things can happen. All right. Things can happen, and Felix knows that can benefit somebody. And we should deal with it. And I'm telling you that we should deal with it. Don't just get up and say that, we are criticizing.
I thought I was going to get Atik. Okay, let's get article. Atik, you raised the point.
Well, the point I just wanted to supply everybody, especially.
And right, they are refusing to pick my call. The person cut the line. He said, you get this. I've written to them. They've not responded. You know I will write. I have written to them. They've not responded. And you see, it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing that a district officer of the Electoral Commission would not know that proxy. Did EC tell us that they were doing proxies at the head office even after the deadline?
All right.
Do we know?
Alex, I'm grateful. I get Atik, please come in.
What are they up to in the future? What are they up to in the future?
Alex, can you allow Atik?
No, it's a genuine matter.
Contestant in an election, Chief, you have
the transfer list, we did 600. We did 610. If they bring it and it is even 611, they should tell us. And I'm aware that the list they have is more than 610. This electoral commission.
All right.
You see,
these are allegations, Alex. You
the matter.
Right. I won't come on national television.
Yes, but
and say, when they come,
the EC says
but the
yes
Proxy,
or no, they remain allegations,
5.
Alex. You know.
Proxy, we did 5 and they published 6. Where did the 6th one come from?
Okay.
A leading
Alex,
member of the
I am
MDC.
grateful. I am grateful.
For me, like I said, the Electoral Commission at every turn is not being helpful to its own cause. And I say this simply because the matter at issue as we speak is whether or not, is not whether we have a transfer list or not. According to the Electoral Commission, it is there and it is ready. However, when we requested that these things be served on us, they said, oh, when you go to the district, it is available. And to the extent that he's complaining that the proxy list is, the transfer list is unavailable at the district office, for me, is problematic. Because on the one hand, you have that assurance from the Electoral Commission that it is ready, it is available. On the other, you have somebody from the constituency.
By the way, I asked the district office.
Alex, I have not asked you to come in.
The district office was told my party that they did not have it. I just want to add it. That by the way, the district office doesn't seem to have the list of transfer.
So I think that if the Electoral Commission is watching, I just don't hope. I just want to hope that it's not a universal or a pervasive problem. I just wish to believe that it is a one-off problem and specific to only a Futu. And if indeed that's the situation, the Electoral Commission should, without hesitation, either send the document if it's not sent, or ask their district officer to make it available to whoever makes that requisition. Having said so, I think I was listening to Felix and I was all excited. You know why? He sounded all good when it comes to the engagements with the Electoral Commission. But
he should not sound like that.
He should not. You see, I'm not saying when there is a need to sound supportive of the Electoral Commission, he shouldn't do so. But there is this phenomenon. In fact, it has grown to become a subculture in our body politic. And that is any time one of these two parties wins an election, the Electoral Commission all of a sudden, and by some strange design, becomes their ally. Ally used advisedly. So that anything good or bad, they attempt to defend that insofar as it is the Electoral Commission that is committing that so-called wrong. And you have the other also speaking very vehemently, and rightly so. For me, if you are in opposition, the feeling is that you are disadvantaged ab initio because you are not entitled to some resources that parties in government are entitled to. So it is always proper that you take precautions to make sure that you are not shortchanged at the end of the day. But you find these parties that have made it into power or that have made it into government at every point defending the Electoral Commission. And so when Felix attempts to create the impression that it is only MPP that is doing so because they are in opposition, I think it is a little unfair because they even did worse. And it exposes a bigger issue that at what point are we going to bring an end to this somewhat hypocrisy about our engagement with the Electoral Commission. Whether you are in government or not, if the Electoral Commission commits a wrong, I think we should all be bold enough to say, look, on this occasion, the Electoral Commission erred. But people will struggle very hard to justify even things that we all know are, at the end of the day, injurious to the smooth process we all anticipate or expect the Electoral Commission to conduct. So for me, whether MPP or NDC, there is this spirit that takes hold of them when they get into power. And that spirit leads them to defend, sometimes unjustifiably so, the Electoral Commission. And if we all can say that, look, we are interested in strengthening the institution of the Electoral Commission. So where they err, we must in unanimity say, Electoral Commission, on this occasion, you have done wrong. Because there is a saying, I think this is a saying that's familiar to everybody.
Peace Council.
Okay.
I am not, but you see, I am saying that let's not attempt to say that the Electoral Commission, even when it is right, some attempt to bastardize it. Because today we are in a certain position. If we don't tell the Electoral Commission the hard truths, when we, by some reason, get to the other side, they will do these same things, and you probably would not be too strong, because you would have lacked the courage or the moral standing to say the Electoral Commission has heard on this, because you supported what they did some time ago. Well, let's all in unanimity say when the Electoral Commission has done what is wrong, it has done what is wrong, and together we can move forward.
Okay. Well, Felix, briefly, and then we'll
I think attempt to paint all of us with the same brush. It's most disingenuous. The truth must be told that no party has behaved as irresponsibly as the MPP has towards the Electoral Commission. I consider that whilst in opposition, we had concerns to the Electoral Commission and we raised them. Why? There was, in 2004, for instance, I recall that we had concerns about what we perceived to be a bloated register. What did we do? We compiled the evidence and gave it to the Electoral Commission to assess. Nothing came out of it. But we did not seek to bastardize Dr. Farijan or whoever was the head of the Electoral Commission in the manner that the MPP is doing. Again, this bit about when you are in opposition, you are disadvantaged. And so you must make noise. Doesn't sit well with you. See, when you raise a concern that is clearly unfounded, it must be pointed out. And when you do so, it is not that you are defending the Electoral Commission. I have not defended the Electoral Commission. What I have done is to push back on what I know to be falsehoods. I spoke about Gabriel Shidaku's claims. When you claim that ballot papers have been thumb-printed in favor of one party and it turns out to be false, it must be pointed out. It is not a defense of the Electoral Commission. It is an insistence that the right thing and the truth must be told at all times. Again, when Alex makes an allegation, like, oh, he was at some place and somebody called a top NDC man and told him he would do proxy list. How do we accept such an allegation at face value?
He's the only one who got...
no, but first of all, who is this so-called big NDC man? I mean, how can you even make...
Listen.
But when you make...
Alex, you were there. You were the only one there.
No, but let me make my point. So let me make my point.
Do you want...
No, let me make my point.
I brought it up.
Let me make my point.
It is my
No, let me make my point.
Can we...
I've given you the name.
Alex, can we move on? Because...
We closed the proxy on the 27th September.
You were there alone. Okay, so...
I wasn't there alone. The district office...
But none of us here was there.
But I'm telling you...
Yes, so it remains an allegation until we can prove it.
I am saying that the district office closed the proxy list. We had only 5.
You see,
my camera came on the 4th. And he had his name strangely on the list. What are you talking about, Felix?
You see, it is obvious that...
I'm giving you the name.
It is obvious that Alex is having sleepless nights in his constituency because he's on his way out of Parliament.
Come on.
So he has been compelled every now and then to come and make very wild, bogus, false allegations against members of the NDC.
I
can tell you with all the confidence I can master that what he said is not true. Because you see, well, I think if I could make my point. When you come on national television, throw out wild, especially when the people are even not here to defend themselves, and there's no basis, you don't furnish us with any evidence upon which you can proceed. It should not be allowed on this program. If he has problems with NDC people in his constituency, out of a contestation for that seat, let him keep it in that constituency and slag it out with them. But you don't come on national television, bastardize people, malign them, provide no evidence, and expect that we will accept it. The general point I am making is that it is possible to point out flaws in the work of the EC without seeking to bastardize it as an institution and without seeking to create the impression that the EC is out there to cheat your political party, especially when you don't provide any evidence going forward. That is why I'm calling for responsible behavior. Look, even if it was done by some parties in opposition, it doesn't mean that as a country we should not leave scope for growth, that we should do the same things all the time simply because we've gone into opposition. We must grow as a country. And therefore, the things that we do that do not inure to the benefit of the electoral process must be cast aside. By all means, express concern, but express it responsibly. And don't agitate your supporters and create the impression that you are being cheated when that is not the case. That is why I cited Gabi's example. It was an extremely dangerous act of provocation, which can lead to serious conflict.
Okay, Daily Guide is again reporting of 6 ballot boxes.
You see, the impression that is being created here is that the NDC speaks only when it is in defense of the truth, and when the idea is to ensure that the Electoral Commission is strengthened, and that they always speak the truths. But you see, Kofi Adams, who happens to be their national organizer, and I'm told virtually the head of their campaign, said that there were not any additions to the special voters list. Apparently, that was a huge lie. because the Electoral Commission itself has admitted to the fact that there had been latest additions.
And Kofi was speaking for himself.
Yes, I was on the program.
Electoral Commission.
I'm just trying to link. You see, he's making the point that anytime the NDC speaks, it is our response to concerns raised by opposition. It is doing so in the interest of the Electoral Commission or in the interest of the truth. And I'm saying that Kofi Adams spoke on this particular issue of special voters list and sought to create the impression that it was untrue and that these were just wild allegations like it's been suggested here, peddled by opposition individuals and so on. But I'm saying that the Electoral Commission itself, at one of the important platforms created by the Electoral Commission, admitted that indeed this had happened. And they also admitted further that it was in contravention of the very regulations we are using to run this year's election. However, on the balance of peace and the head of the law, they rather favored the the former. So, for me, I am saying that the NDC is as guilty as anybody else they are accusing, because to the extent that people were even called upon to match the Electoral Commission with all kinds of things, I doubt if that amounts to or amounted to responsible behavior. It could have sent this country up the creek if reason had not prevailed and restraint had not been exercised. So I find it difficult when it is very convenient. The NDC says, oh, we only act in a manner that is meant to strengthen the institution of the Electoral Commission. If Afarijan were to speak on the very things they have said about him and the institution of the Electoral Commission when they were in opposition, I'm sure a lot of them would have been unspeakable. But I think that we can graduate this debate further. And that's why I made the point that let's be unanimous in the things that can make the Electoral Commission better. As for who has said what, who seeks to drag the name of the Electoral Commission into disrepute, who is weakening the institution, the NDC is as guilty as anybody else.
I see. No, we reject.
Okay. All right.
No, he's made a serious allegation which requires some response. First of all, the claim that we've said that we only speak about truth is a bastardization of what I said. I have said that when opposition parties say things that are patently false, and you know that it is false, and you push back, it is not a defense of the Electoral Commission. It is simply an insistence on the truth must be told. But you see, again, when you seek to paint everybody with the same brush and think that if you're a small party, all you need to do in order to carry favor with the electorate is to push the MPP and NDC into the same pigeonhole and you stand out. I don't think that is an effective strategy. The point is that we have in the past taken on the Electoral Commission. Why? The protestation that he speaks about, I went there and I can tell you that nobody threatened the peace that day. We were there when we were there. Yeah. When evidence emerged. Listen.
We're told that your general secretary made
right. No, I was there. Right. I was there. Do I look to you like somebody who can pick up a cudgel and slash it?
You never know.
I don't do that. Nobody in that crowd wielded any offensive weapon. It is a very peaceful protest that we engaged in. Let me tell you what happened.
We're here. Your general secretary was
the call was for people to wield all kinds of weapons and match.
He was wearing a regular smock. He stood on a vehicle and urged our supporters to become. In fact, when we went there were soldiers who had barricaded the entrance of the Electoral Commission. They were there containing the crowd because we were behaving peacefully. They didn't have a problem. We were there when policemen were sent from the Ridge roundabout direction and started firing warning shots. It led to a near standoff between the military and the policemen, because the military told that these people are completely harmless. They are not doing anything that undermines the peace. So your reaction is simply uncalled for. And we were chanting, we want peace, we want peace, we want peace, because we had known or we had learned that the MPP was actually padding the figures coming from some constituencies in the Ashanti region. And why? We were proving right. There were 55 constituencies in the Ashanti region where turnout was over 100%.
55 constituencies?
55 police stations.
55
police stations. I've corrected it. I've corrected it.
No, but you
why?
Please. 55 constituencies.
Please.
It can't be
I have said 55 police stations.
Can we 55 police stations? At where and where and where?
Oh, why? There's one called
KMA. No.
There's one called
Alex, can we move on? Because, okay, all right. Alex, but I've not invited you in this conversation.
That's my point. So you have come to lie about my camera.
Nobody has but I've told you that.
I have told you about the police stations.
But I have.
Right.
Alex, allow Philip to wrap up so that we can make progress. Okay.
Is it right? The protestations and the issues that the NDC raised about the conduct of the EC when in the opposition come nowhere near what the MPP has done. Why? Did the vice presidential candidate not stand on a platform and claim that there were 760,000 foreigners on our register and that he had 10% to show? he will bring us a 90% later. Up to date, the 90% has not come up. That was a vicious lie told against the EC with a view to undermine him.
But it wasn't the EC.
No. But who did the registration? Who did the registration? Was it the EC?
If we can,
so if you say there are 760,000 foreigners, who are you attacking?
Oh, so you are now holding the EC responsible for every anomaly?
No. But who was Bamian holding responsible? Who?
Can we?
Me?
I think we
can make
progress.
No, we won't make progress until the party is established. Why do you want us to make progress?
No, Felix, I think this
so
issue,
they have been lying. They have been telling outrageous lies about the process in a bid to prepare their supporters' minds to reject the results of the elections. That is different from raising concerns as Atik has raised this morning.
Okay.
That is
a quick one. Alex, we can make progress this morning.
Alex doesn't like progress very much.
All right. I don't want us to go there to the ballot boxes. The Daily Guide is talking about these ballot boxes that are missing, but I think the EC, some news has coming that they fell off some vehicles and they were being. Alex, what is the laughter for?
Why?
All right. But the Punch is reporting.
Well, on that one, the comment.
Yeah, a quick one.
The
issue has issued.
Why are you?
Alex, let me bring you in. Felix, let me bring you in. Yes. On the ballot box.
Okay, fine.
The Western region ballot boxes.
They fell off a truck.
Well, that's what.
They fell off a moving truck. How? Where?
That's the explanation.
No, where? These are.
Well, at least the case. No, Alex, but why are you asking Felix? Alex, why are you asking Felix? The Takwa police.
You remember when?
Was that in the truck?
No, you remember when? Right. The two of them are together.
Which two of them?
The EC and the NDC.
No, Alex, please.
No, it's wild, eh?
No,
Alex. Why don't you give me the chance to explain why?
Explain what?
No. Give me the chance to explain why I'm saying so.
No, Alex, listen.
Why am I?
The Takwa police is reporting this incident. The case has been reported to them.
Who reported? When did they report?
Well, we're told by
when did the EC report
the Takwa police by the story that the case was reported there, but they referred those who reported to the Kwesimintin police because they were told that the EC officials had earlier reported the same case to the Kwesimintin police, and the fact that where the ballot boxes were said to have fallen is within the jurisdiction of the Kwesimintin police station.
Okay, you see, right. Let me say this. In Ghana today, unemployment is very high. The Electoral Commission boss herself has admitted that one of the things that would threaten the peace of this country is a high rate of unemployment. Nursing training allowances are not being paid. Teacher training allowances are not being paid.
Alex, how is that related to the boxes falling from the truck?
Don't worry, I'm coming there. We have a government that is so desperate. In spite of all these harsh economic conditions, in spite of all these failures that Ghanaians had expected them to at least give them some comfort, they are so desperate. If you look at the way government is spending, the way they are taking media space, commercial interviews here and there, it is clear that this government wants to do everything to stay in power.
Let's come back.
Therefore,
let's come back.
Yes, therefore,
come back.
We in opposition are very concerned. Now look, the generality of the masses, the ordinary Ghanaian, if you listen to them, they want a change. Yet you have an electoral commission that seem to be giving excuses here and there. Like Felix will say, slips and what? Mistakes, petty slips. That's what I'm quoting him. Petty slips and mistakes. That's to the NDC. But I'm telling the NDC today that the MPP and all other parties that are calling for change will not sit down for questionable results. No, don't worry. Will not sit down for questionable results to be declared. We will not also pretend not to be seeing some of the underhand dealings.
Alex, are you suggesting that the ballot box, 6 of them that
I am saying that I find it extremely curious. I find it extremely curious that ballot boxes will fall off a moving truck or vehicle the Electoral Commission will not raise alarm, will not let the public know. But immediately the NPP comes out to say that, hey, where are these ballot boxes? They will quickly say, oh, we are going to report to the police. I am telling you that it's the NPP that first reported the matter to the police. It is the NPP that first reported the matter to the police. Why didn't the Electoral Commission report the matter to the police?
That's the story you are telling, because the Daily Guide is saying that when the NPP officers went to Takwa police station, they were referred to Kwesimintim, but when they went there, they were told that EC officials had already reported the case.
I am saying
you have a different story.
I am telling you that the NPP first raised this alarm.
Okay.
The NPP started these concerns before
EC officials report.
Yes, but
so your story is counter to what the Daily Guide is
why should that happen? Like, for instance, that other example I gave on Proxy, that you've closed Proxy 27th. The EC has given you the list that you have 5 at the district level. EC has given, they've signed off. You have your agent there, it is 5. Then when the final list comes out, it is 6. Then the EC district office denies that. As for me, I didn't know how it became 6.
Alex, you have told me that story. Let me get Atik to come in. I'm wrapping. I'm getting to 8 o'clock.
I am saying that the unemployment situation, all right, which gives...
Alex, I'm grateful. See, I've gone past 10 minutes after 8.
It's what is leading to the change, and the NDC resisted.
Okay.
They would do everything.
Alex, I'm grateful. Alex is a member of parliament for the Futu
with the Electoral Commission.
I'm grateful for your
to change the will of the people, and we're not going to allow that. And that is what gives them discomfort when we raise issues about the Electoral Commission.
Alex, I'm grateful.
For the life of me, I cannot imagine. I've racked my brain really seriously to find out the reasons that could have accounted for this mishap, if that is politically correct to use. It is unacceptable. And I'm just trying to imagine the kind of truck that was carrying these ballot boxes. Was it an open track? Because I know the Electoral Commission doesn't use open tracks. Most of the time, their tracks are enclosed or are closed in such a way that it is even difficult to see which items they are carrying and so on. So how is it possible that my question is, how is the Electoral Commission going to remedy this damage? Because now the other ballot boxes, if you ask me, have been contaminated. They've been compromised.
How?
Yes, because if you're having 6 out of them, how sure are we that those that finally made their way to Takwa are the correct ballot boxes? No, because if they can fall,
I'm not getting what you're saying.
What I'm trying to say, hold on.
6 falls off. Can they be replaced? What contamination are you talking about?
That is the point I'm making. If it is that easy for these 6 ballot boxes to get missing, all right, it should be possible for something else to be possible. I mean, it should be possible for something else to happen. Okay. And this is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
That if you lose 6 of your ballot boxes meant for a particular destination, something mysterious must have happened for that to happen. That same mystery can also occasion some other things to happen on the day of election.
I see.
Look, I think it's important. It's important.
Yes.
I established this. Let's not anybody think that these are conspiracy theories.
At least at IPAC meetings, you people agree that overvoting can be dealt with. You agreed.
You see,
the parties agreed on it.
Oh, overvoting can be dealt with,
okay,
yes.
all right.
But
I'm grateful.
If we have the opportunity to stop the overvoting, why don't we do that?
Okay, all right. Felix, quickly come in. I've run out of time. Sorry.
This highlights 30 seconds. The problem I've been lamenting all morning. This incredible, almost outrageous behavior of piecing together very irrelevant facts to level allegations just for the sake of it is mind-boggling. Look, anybody familiar with this electoral system would know that it will take extraordinary effort to rig any election held in Ghana.
If 6 boxes,
the elections are held. Listen, no, listen.
We should not be worried about
as for that one, the police
how
say
they
have been informed. They will investigate, and then the outcome will be known. Why? You see, Atik, please, when you were speaking, I kept quiet.
Okay, I have 30 seconds to wrap up.
If you've joined forces with the MPP on this one, at least let me make my point.
You see, I have 30 seconds.
The EC says they will replace the ballot. But what is a ballot box? It's a container put at the police station in the open.
I think it's suggesting that they've been contaminated.
How did you get
how? You asked him how. He was not able to tell you. You asked him how. He was not able to tell you. Would you two?
Okay, all right.
Let me.
Okay.
the additional ballot boxes.
Please,
in the
Felix,
footy in
let me
2024.
make my point.
You remember
Alex,
the
don't make
2012
allegations, please.
No, but
no,
2012 is
I was not at the Futu. You were the only one there. So
But those
these are
ballot boxes
allegations
they
you are
bought,
making,
they
Alex.
had
It
ballot
doesn't work
papers
to
in
make
there.
my point.
Okay.
Because it will render his claims redundant.
All right, Felix, please wrap up.
What is
30
the ballot? What is the
seconds, I'm
ballot box? The
wrapping.
ballot box is a container put in the open.
Oh, come on.
Okay,
Put in
at a
which
polling station with hundreds of people around, into which ballot papers are put. At the end of the ballot process, they just open it and count it. That is all that the ballot
But
paper,
you
the
also
ballot
keep
box
some
does.
for ways and means.
So how
You keep
does
some for ways
how
and
does
means.
let me get my point.
Okay, all
he
right.
familiar with ballot
I'm wrapping up.
Right,
I'm
but
grateful. I'm grateful.
Great.
I'm grateful for your time this morning. Gentlemen, I'm grateful for your time this morning. Felix Kwachofoso is Deputy Minister of Communications. Atik Mohammed is General Secretary of the PNC. Alex Afenyo Makin is a Member of Parliament for Futu. Gentlemen, I'm grateful for your time this morning.